What's up, guys? Welcome back to Aota Minute to Pick It. It's Tuesday, January 5th. Yesterday, a 2-3 day in college basketball. Oklahoma State +2. They lost that game by 3, up by 19 at one point. Unbelievable, we missed that one. And San Diego State and Colorado State took the under. Missed that one. Should have just taken San Diego State spread. Ended up winning that game big. And NBA, 2 for 3 on the day, though. Fred VanVleet, over 18.5 points. Drops 35 on the day. Easy game for Fred. I think Kings and Warriors, over 234. Hit easy. Warriors win big. Only miss we had was on the Rockets spread against the Mavericks. I saw before the game, Luka Doncic was not playing. When I gave out the pick, he was not playing. Luka Doncic played. He definitely played. Completely different game from there on out. Rockets lost. It is what it is. 2 for 3. We move on to today. Let's have a better day today, too. We're going to start off college basketball, our first game. NC State is playing Clemson. Clemson, 5-point favorite, over-under, 136. NC State comes into this game at 6-1. They have only played 2 games in the last 2 weeks. Those 2 games were both 3-point wins over UNC and Boston College. They're a good offensive team, averaging 81 points per game, shooting 49% from the field. Their senior forward, DJ Funderbank, just returned last week from COVID, which is a big addition back to this team. He scored 21 points, had 5 rebounds in his first game back. For Clemson, they are 8-1 on the year, coming off a 1-point victory over Miami. Their only loss of the season was to 19th ranked Virginia Tech. Clemson has struggled shooting this year. They also struggle with turnover issues, have had issues on the offensive end of the floor, but they're one of the best defenses in the entire country. They rank in the top 5 in points per possession, only giving up 56 points per game, and they force turnovers in about a quarter of their defensive possessions. The big strength of this team, definitely. The bottom line for this game, Clemson has been one of the most impressive defenses in the entire country. I'm kind of surprised they're not still ranked, given their 8-1 record and how impressive they've been in some of their games. NC State has been lights out offensively. Defense is still pretty good, too. They're not a pushover. I think it's going to be a close game. The 5 points is a little too much for me. I think Clemson wins a close one. But like I said, 5 points is probably too much to cover against this team. Our next game, we have an SEC matchup. We got Florida going against Alabama. Alabama comes in a 2.5-point favorite, over-under 153. Florida, 5-1 on the year, is 2-0 in conference play. They got wins over LSU and Vanderbilt. Their only loss of the year so far to Florida State. There's plenty of talent on this team, especially in the guard play. They have 2 guards who are averaging over 14 points per game this year. As a team, they're averaging 82.8 points per game and shooting over 50% from the field. Alabama enters the game 7-3, also 2-0 in conference play. They gave number 9 Tennessee their first loss of the season last game. They also beat Ole Miss the game before that. Their only loss of the year was by 2 to Western Kentucky. Bit of an upset in that game. Defense was decent in non-conference play, but it's really come on recently. They only gave up 64 and 63 to Ole Miss and Tennessee. They don't have 1 star on their offense. They have 4 players who actually average between 12 and 13 points per game. And as an offense, they're averaging 76.7 points per game, but struggling to shoot from the floor, only shooting 41.8%. Overall, Alabama's defense has been good recently, but it did struggle a little bit in the beginning of the season. Florida's offense has been consistent throughout the entire year, and they're shooting over 50%, which is a big advantage against a team who's only shooting 41% from the floor this season. I don't think Florida's going to struggle as much as Tennessee did shooting from the floor. I'm taking Florida to cover this one, probably win the game as well. Our next game, we have UNC, 3-point favorites going into Miami, over-under 141. North Carolina enters this game 6-4. They are 1-2 in ACC play so far. They have losses to NC State and Georgia Tech with a win over Notre Dame. They're a decent team offensively and defensively, pretty balanced, I'd say. No big scorer on offense. Their leader in points is Armando Bacot, who leads the team with 11.4 points per game and 8.2 rebounds. They're struggling to shoot on offense, shooting 42.6% on the year, and they are a terrible 3-point shooting team. Miami, on the other hand, 4-4 on the year. They have lost 3 ACC games to Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Clemson so far this year. They play great at times, but they do struggle to hold on to a lead. Their offense has really struggled at times too. They get streaky on that end. They're scoring 68.8 points per game and shooting 43.7%. They're also a very bad three-point shooting team. For both these teams, really struggling on offense this year, especially beyond the arc. I'm not expecting a lot of threes in this game. If anything, I'm looking at the under since both these teams are good on the defensive end and struggle at times on the offensive end. Don't love any play in this game, but if anything, I'd probably be looking at the under or UNC to win this game. Our next game, we have number 15 Rutgers, 1.5 point favorites, going against number 23 Michigan State, over under 149.5. Rutgers 7-2 on the year, 3-2 in conference play. Their last game, a 2-point loss to a very good Iowa team. They're a very talented young team. They have a trio of stars in Ron Harper Jr., Jacob Young, and Montez Mathis, averaging 22, 15, and 15 respectively. They're a great offensive team, scoring 80 points per game on 49% shooting and amazing from three. They're shooting 39% from three this year. All three of their stars can knock down the three ball. Really struggling from the free throw line though. They're at 60%. It has cost them in a couple close games early on in the year. Not early on in the year. In Big Ten play has cost them games. And they're giving up over 70 as a team on defense. Michigan State on the other hand, 7-3. They're on a 3-game losing streak to Northwestern, Wisconsin, and then Minnesota, right before ending it with the win against Nebraska last game. They're a good team offensively. They're scoring 79 points per game, shooting 45% and 35% from three. Not as good as Rutgers, but still a pretty good shooting team. And they're one of the top teams in the country in assists per game and in free throw percentage. Only 2 players are averaging in double digits for them, though, in Aaron Henry and Joey Hauser. And their defense has been an issue at times this season. The team needs to share it up, especially against a good shooting Rutgers team. For me, Michigan State, really talented and well-coached team, but has underperformed at times this season. Rutgers is one of the surprises of the year. Their young stars keep them in games against anyone, as we just saw against Iowa. Both these offenses can score at an efficient rate. Their defenses have lacked at times. I'm expecting a high score, kind of like the over, but also I'm expecting a close game that Michigan State pulls out because of their experience, and they're way better at the free throw line than Rutgers is. Our last college basketball game, we have number 6 Kansas, 6-point favorites going against TCU, over under 139. Kansas 8-2 on the year, coming off a 25-point loss to Texas at home. In that game, they were only 3 of 23 from 3. They were one of the best rated teams in the country offensively and defensively during non-conference play. Their numbers have started to struggle during Big 12 play though, something to keep an eye on. But they're averaging 76.7 points per game and 67.9 points against in the regular season, led by freshman forward Jalen Wilson, who's putting up 15 points and 7.8 rebounds per game. The biggest knock against Kansas this year, giving up too many offensive rebounds. Need to share that up. TCU, on the other hand, 9-2 on the season, 2-1 in conference play, just suffered a close loss to Oklahoma. Decent offensively, they're only averaging 71.7 points per game though. They're best in the interior on offense. Decent shooting team from 3, shooting 35% on the year, but their best work comes in the paint. On defense, they've been good this year, only giving up 65.9 points against. They're led by guard RJ Nimbard. I definitely pronounced that wrong, but he's averaging 18.7 points per game. And center Kevin Samuel, big reason why they're successful in the interior. He's averaging 10.2 points per game and 10.2 rebounds per game. Overall for this game, Kansas should have a bounce back after a humiliating loss to a very good Texas team. I expect Kansas to be inspired in this game. Bill Self will have the guys up and ready to go for this one. Their only loss before that came to Gonzaga, the very first game of the season. Besides that, they've been by far one of the best teams in the country. TCU, good team, but it's yet to play a ranked opponent. This is going to be by far the biggest test of the year. I think Kansas is going to come out and shock them with how good they are. Alright, now on to the NBA. We have the Utah Jazz, 4.5-point favorites going against the Nets, over under 226. The Jazz, 4-2 on the year. They have won 3 of their last 4, the only loss in that span coming to the Suns. Their defense continues to be really strong this year, only giving up 106.7 points against. Their offense does not put up huge totals statistically, but they're one of the most efficient in the league. The Nets, on the other hand, 3-4. Last 4 of their last 5, they're really starting to skid here. Not really to good teams either, if I'm being honest. I guess the Hawks are probably the best team in that conversation. KD is now out for about a week with COVID. Huge loss for this Nets team that's already struggling. Their defense is giving up 113.4 points against. Not very good. They're very high scoring though, putting up 118 points for, something that we would expect out of this team. Overall, Nets have not been able to figure out their defense. The loss of KD is now going to hurt this offense, which has been carrying the rest of this team so far. The Jazz have a really good defense and offense. They don't really play bad games. They're a very efficient team and well-ran team. Donovan Mitchell has not been off to a great start, but he's been heating up and improving every single game. I expect that to continue. I think he's going to have a big game. Jazz win 4.5, a little bit high. Jazz money line though, looking at that one. Our next game, we have the Lakers, 9-point favorites against the Grizzlies, over-under 218. The Lakers, 5-2 on the year, will be without Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Alex Caruso for this game. A team that plays at well below the average pace of the NBA are still scoring 117 points per game, something we could expect out of the reigning champs, and they're only giving up 105.9 points against. Marc Gasol, playing for the Lakers now, going against his former team in the Grizzlies, should be a good rivalry, or not rivalry, but a good little rematch for him. The team is led by LeBron and AD offensively, of course, but Dennis Schroeder has been a big addition to this team. He's third on scoring on the team so far. Grizzlies 2-4 on the year. Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, Justice Winslow will all be out for this game. All big losses for this team. Their last game was a 108-94 loss to the Lakers, playing in a back-to-back here. They're averaging 109.3 points for 44.3% shooting on the year, not very good for this team. And they're giving up 115 points against. John Morant's their leading scorer and assister. So Dillon Brooks, who's averaging 17.5 points per game, really going to have to step up for this team offensively while Ja's out. Jonas Valanciunas should also step up big for this team. He's averaging 15 and 11.7 rebounds per game. Will be a big matchup with him and Marc Gasol in this one. The bottom line for me, the key injuries for the Grizzlies are leaving them without a good option for a ball handler offensively. That's really going to put them at a disadvantage against a very good Lakers team, both offensively and defensively, as we well know. Lakers win this game big. Without the Grizzlies' key pieces, they can't even keep this game close. Lakers win it by at least 10. For our last game, we got the Timberwolves going against the Nuggets. Nuggets, 10.5-point favorites, over under 222.5. Timberwolves, 2-4 on the year, struggling to start the season. May or may not be without Karl Anthony Towns this game. It'd be the second game in a row he's missed with a wrist injury. Either way, it doesn't change too much for what I like about this game. What I do like about it would only help if Karl Anthony is back in for this one. The Timberwolves as a whole have been outscored by an average of 13 points per game this year. Off to a struggling start. They've been bad. They've dropped 4 in a row. Their last game, a loss to Denver by 15, game which Karl Anthony Towns was not in for. Malik Beasley at 19 points per game leads the team besides Cat. D'Angelo Russell, he's averaging 16.8 points per game, needs to be better for this team. And the rookie Anthony Edwards has averaged 13.7 points per game so far. He's been decent to start the year, but the team as a whole has to be better. Nuggets, 2-4 on the year, will be without Michael Porter Jr. for this game. Big loss for them. He's averaging 19.5 points per game on the season. They're a good offensive team, but they're just as bad defensively. They are averaging and giving up 116 points per game. They're struggling to stop teams in the paint, especially. Their interior defense needs to be much better than it's been so far this year. Their stars have played well to start the year, though. Jamal Murray averaging 24 points per game, while Nikola Jokic averaging 22.3 points per game, 11.2 boards, 12.8 assists, putting up MVP numbers early on in the year. We'll see if he can keep it up. Bottom line for this game, both teams struggling starts. Both are 2-4 on the year. Nuggets coming off the big one, obviously, against the Timberwolves. Nuggets interior defense, in a back-to-back game is why I like the Timberwolves to at least cover this one. We got 10.5 points, which is way too much for a Nuggets team that isn't playing very well right now. If Karl Anthony Towns plays, they easily cover that 10.5. If not, I'm still taking the T-Wolves to cover it. All right, now let's get on to my locks for the day. I'm going to start off. I'm taking Florida plus 2.5 against Alabama. Alabama just shooting so much worse than Florida, even though they're coming off the upset against Tennessee. They're only shooting 41% on the year. Defense has been stepping it up lately, but against a Florida team that's shooting 50%, I think Florida's still going to have success on the offensive end. Alabama's going to struggle to keep up with that team. Next game, I'm taking Michigan State, money line against Rutgers. This Rutgers team is very talented, shoots the ball well, but so is Michigan State. They fell off a little bit to start Big Ten play. I think Izzo's going to have this team turned around, and the experience and just being a way better free throw shooting team than Rutgers makes me think Michigan State is going to pull out a close game here. I'm giving them the advantage in the stretch if it comes down to a close game, which I think it will. And for my last college basketball pick, I'm taking Kansas, -6 against TCU. Kansas should have a bounce-back game after that humiliating loss to Texas. They got absolutely blown out. Besides that game and the Gonzaga game, they're undefeated this year, have been very good as a team. TCU is a good team, but yet to play a ranked opponent. They're going to be a little bit surprised by this Kansas talent. Haven't seen a team like it yet, so it should be a big test for them early on, which I don't think they'll be able to pass. Kansas wins big. And in the NBA, I'm taking the Jazz money line against the Nets, a struggling Nets team that is now losing KD, going against a very efficient Jazz team that also plays well defensively, that normally bodes well for not getting upset. I would consider, if the Nets won it, an upset given the fact that the Jazz are a 4.5-point favorite. 4.5 is a little too much, but you're getting the money line at -190. Good value for me. I'm also going to be taking the Lakers -9 against the Grizzlies. In my opinion, Lakers -9 against them would be the line that you have if John Morant's playing, if Jared Jackson's playing, if they have their guys, which the Grizzlies do not have their guys. Missing that main ball handler against a very, very good Lakers team, obviously. They're going to struggle. They're going to get blown out, lose by at least 10. We saw it last game, and I think the Lakers win this game by even more. For my final pick, I'm buying up. I'm taking the Timberwolves +12 against the Nuggets. That's at -140. Both teams are struggling to start the year, so putting the Nuggets as that high of favorites is way too much. If Karl-Anthony Towns plays, he should have a field day down low against the struggling interior defense of the Nuggets. Even if he doesn't play, that's a big enough factor for me. There's still a lot of good talent on this Timberwolves team. I expect them to make this game close. +12 is just a great value line to have up against the Nuggets right now. That's it for the picks, boys. Let's hit some winners. Let's turn around from Monday, and let's have a fucking great day. Let's go.